Thank you all for the opportunity to come before you and have a chat. CDFA is involved in a couple different ways, but I want to provide a little bit of history about how we got involved with food safety. We've long been involved in animal feed and in animal welfare and things like that, but in produce food safety, it's a relatively new phenomenon for us. Shipping point inspection is one of the programs. They operate under a cooperative agreement with the United States Department of Agriculture. This agreement started back in the early 1920s. During the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, we were all focused on quality. Those standards, US grade number 1, US number 2, utility grades, things like that, dealt with labeling, dealt with maturity, it dealt with quality issues. Food safety really wasn't a concern and no one was really talking about it. And then in the mid-1980s, 1990s, some private industry started being involved and going out. Global Food Safety Initiative talks were coming about. USDA was being requested on a number of occasions to go out onto farms and look at the processes and the practices that were occurring on the farms. Up until this point, we were just focused on the product, the finished product, what it looked like once it got into the box. We weren't looking at what was happening, how that product was being grown. Late 1990s, California Department of Food and Ag, in conjunction with USDA, we were very instrumental in helping them. They put together the first set of metrics, the good agricultural practices. And this was the first audit-based program that we started going out on farms and utilizing. It was a fee-for-service. It was not mandated by any stretch of the imagination. It was used for buyer acceptance. So you had a certificate that said USDA or one of the state partners had come onto your farm and provided this service and actually verified that you had good agricultural practices. So we did those starting around 2001, I think it was finalized. So 2001, 2, 3, 4, we started getting more and more requests for those. And then in 2006, we had the spinach outbreak. Very quickly, the lettuce industry came together and said, we need to change this. We need to make this mandatory for our program. We can't have voluntary service anymore. It's a voluntary agreement, and Michael, the next speaker, will get into how that evolved. But in 2007, the program became mandatory if you joined it. And our role in that was, because we had food safety experience on the farm already, they came to CDFA and said, look, you guys are already doing this. Can you be the government entity that comes onto the farm, licensed by USDA, already ready to go, and provide that service for us? And we said, sure. 10 years, that's what we did. We offered voluntary services, fee-for-services, for good agricultural practice audits, leafy green audits. The cantaloupe industry came along not long after that and said, look, it's good. We want to do that too, because in 2011, the Jensen outbreak occurred. They realized they needed to do something. So we've had this service for a number of years. Jump ahead just a few years later, 2011, FSMA gets introduced. 4 years later, FDA comes out with a funding opportunity to all the states and said, we'd like some help in implementing this rule. So now we take the funding. We're getting ready to start year 4 of a 5-year cooperative agreement with FDA. It's a little bit different, and now that it's a regulatory program. There are standards now that must be met. That's different than an audit checklist. The checklist is just our auditors go out and they check things off, and they're either doing them or they're not, and there's a point system, and you're either certified or you're not. But now, under FSMA, under the produce safety rule in particular, it's a regulation. You must do these things. So we have both roles. They're not the same people. We do not use our auditors to do our regulators, and we do not use our regulators to do our food safety auditing. It's a little bit new for us to have a dual role authority like that. And in both cases, we are not the final say in the appliance. We're just the on-farm experts of looking at the practices on the farm. In the LGMA, if there's a problem found, if there's a decertification that needs to occur, CDFA is not the role that does that. That's handled by, they have their own compliance officer. In California, under FSMA, under the produce safety rule, if we find a problem, we're going to be working with the California Department of Public Health. They're our state partner agency that in California holds the authority for food safety. That's not CDFA. In a lot of states it is. A lot of states, the Department of Agriculture also holds the authority for food safety, but not here. So we work very closely with a number of different agencies, including FDA. FDA obviously is funding this, but they're the ones that are going out on these inspections with us on occasion. Mike is going to talk, California Department of Public Health is going to talk about CalFIRT, and I'm not going to get into all the acronyms that we're going to use today. But that's an organization it's jointly formed by a number of agencies in order to respond quickly to outbreaks. So the department is doing a number of things. We're regulating, we're providing fee for service, and along with that, we're trying to put on workshops like this, trying to be involved in as much educational opportunities as we can. A lot of the large organizations, we heard from Dan earlier, and we heard from Justin, everyone has food safety experts, food safety teams, if you will, on their operations. There are a number of farmers in California, small farmers, very small farmers, that don't have those same folks. They don't have the funding or the ability to have teams. It's one or two people, maybe it's a man and a wife that are running their operation, and they are the food safety experts. And so we've got a job in the next few years of how do we make sure that what we're doing here with all of you gets translated down to those smaller farms and very small farms, and that we're successful in making sure that we're raising that educational level of food safety awareness to them as well.